Alright, I'm back with 4 more movies I've missed in theaters that I decided to catch up on. Now, of course, these ones are a little bit more well known than the last ones, but the first one is the animated movie Piece by Piece. Now, of course, Piece by Piece is the biopic of Pharrell Williams. Now, you know me, I love myself a good biopic. I watched 3 of them recently: Big George Foreman, Dumb Money, and Bob Marley's One Love. Now, of course, I am also really excited for the one coming out at the end of the year about Clarissa Shields. But there's one thing in common: they're good. It's pretty hard to mess up a biopic. I mean, maybe the Napoleon movie that also came out this year, which is I'm a little bit hesitant to watch, right? But besides that, what do the people think? 6.9 on IMDb, 90% on Fandango, 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 74% of Google users like the movie. Now, of course, on Rotten Tomatoes, the people gave it a 90%. Now, of course, 90%, that's a big review, that's high praises. Is it warranted? Because the other ones are 6.9 and 74, so obviously on the lower side. But is it warranted? Yes, it is. Of course, with it being a Pharrell Williams biopic, you get a fun, loving story. And of course, the main draw was the fact that it was animated using Legos, right? Not actually like legitimate Legos, right? But using Lego pieces. Now, of course, everyone did have their skepticism, including myself. Could they use it? Could they use it to their advantage, right? And to that, I say they did. They did pretty well with it. Me personally, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Same thing with One Love. This is essentially a cheat code because Piece by Piece gets to use Pharrell Williams songs, and who doesn't like a Pharrell Williams song, right? Who doesn't love them, right? But besides that, the essential plot is his early life. It goes a little bit into his early life where he got his inspiration, his close friends, and then to his struggles of actually making it on the scene, to hitting his highs, to then inevitably hitting his lows in his life, and then coming back and essentially evolving, right? Now, of course, it is a fun, happy-go-lucky movie, as people would say. Lots of colors. And when I say that they use the Legos to their advantage, it does. It's something tiny, very minor. But using Lego pieces, you could actually see Pharrell Williams actually construct a beat. It's not something big. It's not something that's like, in your face. But it's that tiny thing that I like, right? To be able to create it, right? And of course, you have humor, obviously. Pretty funny movie to some degree, right? It's not a comedy, obviously, but it is funny. You'll get some laughs from it. It's a charming movie as well. But of course, we are talking a lot about the good. But what about the not so good? Now, of course, there's not a lot of not so goods, other than maybe like the occasional cringy scene. Not too much. But the main thing is, although I did say that they use the Legos to their advantage to really express the creativity of Pharrell Williams, sometimes because, if you've seen a Lego, not too many moving pieces on it. So sometimes it does come off as stiff, which at that point, kind of a nitpick at this point. But although they can be really creative with it, sometimes it hinders some of it, right? It's always bad to some degree, but it's not a lot in the movies. The main problem I had with it is like his kid, when he figures out Happy, the Minion song, is because the baby is quite literally like 2 pieces, or at least moves only like 2 pieces, so it's like a little stiff. But for the most part, it's really good. The impact he left on the world with his music, the emotions he brought from other artists like Kendrick Lamar and Snoop Dogg and other people, to just his connection to his family and friends. When it does the sad part of the movie where he unfortunately loses his grandmother, it hits a little bit, It hits, it gets a little sad. But don't worry, it gets happy again, obviously. But for the most part, it handles the emotions really well. Now, of course, you may be wondering, she's giving a lot of praises, but not a lot of bad. So why don't you give it a higher rating? And to that I said, it's a good movie. It's just, I connected to the other ones a little bit more. And of course, 8 out of 10, great movie. Especially if you have the streaming service that this is on, or if the movie's on sale, whether it be digitally or physically, I would highly recommend Piece by Piece. It's a very good movie. Happy, warm colors. By the way, oh, I forgot. The colors, they pop a lot. The music, the soundtrack, once again, is a Pharrell Williams song. It's basically a cheat code. Great. You know, it really draws out emotions from the movie, from the certain plots. But for the most part, I 100% get why people would give it a 90%, 100%. A 70, I think it's a little bit too low. Just a little bit. I would get why they would give it that, maybe because it's the Lego portion of it, obviously. Weird thing, but I would assume the Lego gave them the ability to be really creative, but on a tighter budget. Because I assume the things that they did in the movie, by the way, beautiful, would have costed way more if it would have been like a regular animated movie. So I would get that, right? And who doesn't like it? So yeah, if you're gonna watch this movie, I hardly doubt you won't like it, right? But besides that, on to the second one, and it's vastly different from this one. It is Quiet Place Day One, obviously. Day One. Now, of course, the Quiet Place franchise has 3 movies, including this one. And it's about these monsters that crash land on Earth that we learned in this movie, who really don't like sound. Like they go out and, you know, straight unalive people who make noises, right? They're really sensitive, and they're basically immune to everything. Now, of course, the whole immune thing and the whole how society fell, you know, there's a bunch of videos out there saying how why it doesn't make any sense. So we'll just ignore that and just talk about the movie, because it's really important, all right? You know, sometimes none of this makes sense, right? But we'll talk about that later. But let's talk about what the people have it. 6.3 out of 10 by IMDb, 87% by Rotten Tomatoes, 3.2 out of 5 by Letterboxd, and 67% of Google users like the movie. Now, of course, the people actually rated it worse, slightly worse than the critics at 72%, which is a very much not a daily occurrence. You know, most of the time it's the critics that usually have a lower number, right? What would I give it? I would give it a 7.5 out of 10 for the sole fact that it starts off slow, kind of, in terms of characters, and sometimes it gets annoying with the main character, which we'll talk about later. But at the end, they slowly bring everything, or give everything a conclusion and a somewhat bittersweet ending. And if I were to give a description of it, of the timeline, I guess you could say, the first half, slow, characters not the best. They're not given enough time to really flourish. The third quarter is when it starts to pick up. In the fourth quarter, a sweet kiss, a cherry on top. Now, of course, the essential plot revolves around the main character, Samira, who is a cancer patient who is part of a club. So that's they go on trips to these events where they watch marionette shows, right? So that explains why they're in the city. There's another main character named Eric, who is a foreign exchange student, I would assume, because his family's from the UK. He does have some other people. Unfortunately, they do not last long, so don't form a deep connection with these characters. And of course, there's a cat. And before I go any further, no, the cat does not die. So, in case you're wondering, oh, I don't want to watch if the cat dies. The cat doesn't die. Don't worry about it. Right? But besides that, it goes through the city, basically showing how people first reacted to the monsters. And of course, that is where some of the first criticism come, is that the way that people learn about the monsters really relatively quickly in this movie, it kind of makes the first ones kind of a little weird, because it's like, why were these people struggling? The people already knew like the weaknesses of these monsters, and they just still somehow fell. That's a bit weird, right? But besides that, Samira goes around the city to go to this one pizza place. That's one of the annoying parts. We'll talk about it literally soon, like literally next. But she essentially abandons everything, besides the cat, obviously, to go get a slice of pizza, or at least some pizza, right? And that's annoying. Oh my god, it's so annoying. She's so rude to people in the beginning. And, you know, and there's a part of the movie where she basically meets up with these kids who obviously, unfortunately, their parents are most likely gone. Gives them something to eat under a fountain, obviously. So even the plastic or aluminum wrapper, I don't know what they're wrapped up anyways, makes some noise, but not enough to attract anything, right? She basically abandons them, which, don't get me wrong, you're not obligated, you know, to watch over these kids, but it's kind of like why even show this scene if she's gonna get rid of them, like literally within the next one? Like she drops them off because there's a whole mob that forms because the helicopters start rolling. Don't make any noise. Go to the ports because the monsters can't swim. Yeah. By the way, they realize that the monsters can't swim. Why didn't no one just, I don't know, just start luring them in the water? Like I get it, they're scared, but like whatever, right? So she basically drops off the kids. Of course, when there's a huge gathering of people, they make enough noise, enough tiny noises where they attracts the monsters. All hell breaks loose, cars explode, and one thing to say is, we don't see the kids again. We don't see them even at the end of the movie where Eric, escapes with the cat, or at least where they escape with the cat on the boat. You can't see them. You find this Henry guy, which he appears in the theater with this kid who likes the cat, right? That's not really that important, but you see him back, so obviously you saw that he survived. Straight up, the kids don't. I don't see them. They got straight up murdered, and it's her fault. She just abandoned them. And she's like, you have to leave me alone and all that stuff. Which, oh man, it gets a little bit annoying, right? But besides that, we'll talk about the redemption arc a little bit later. But yeah, essentially just her trying to go get some pizza. She makes it very clear. She like is super rude to everyone. Obviously, since the monsters attack, you can't really hear her. So that's good, right? But the action scenes with the monsters, obviously, they do it well. It looks nice, obviously. Especially, the one thing I can give it praises for is the cinematography. As the first shot we get of the Death Angels, besides them being in the meteor, is a silhouette of it being humanoid, just to later find out it is absolutely not. So obviously, I like that. It was pretty creepy. But otherwise, it does somewhat get creepy, but it kind of loses that factor because every single time a monster, gets up close and personal with someone, no one died. Even the side characters, like the nobody characters, you don't even know their name, they don't die either. So every time it happens, you think nothing's gonna happen. Why should I care, right? Like there still needed to be some type of threat. Like don't get me wrong, obviously they're the main characters. You never expect them to die, but there's not enough. There's only like one close person that dies, and even then we didn't get enough time with them to really be like, oh no, he died, right? They try to speed run the whole emotion thing to see if they could get something. It didn't work, right? But for the most part, the first half and even up to 3/4 of the movie, it has some good action scenes. You can't go wrong with that. But the only character that we actually listen to is Samara, which is the main character. She's annoying. I get it. She's a cancer patient. I get it. Life isn't really the best for her. But dude, it's the apocalypse. Why are you so rude to people, my man? Like, why are you so rude? Like, I get it. It's whatever. But the last quarter of the movie is some of the best of the movie, which is a little bit bad because if it's the end where you get the best part, especially in streaming, especially since you don't buy it to go watch in the theater, most people are just going to turn it off if they don't get their satisfaction, right? But besides that, the essential thing is, why does she want to go to the pizza place? That's a very important thing. Why does she want to go? Why is she so hell-bent on going to it? And that's because that is one of the few places that she remembers her father fondly, right? Her father has unfortunately passed away. And one thing is that she would always go to the pizza place with her father, get a slice, happy, warm memories. And of course, don't get me wrong, that seems like a nice reason, but at the end of the day, there's death angels going around, and people are dying, the apocalypse has essentially started. Even with the whole dead dad thing, why does she want to go to the pizza place? And that is because we later find out, in the basically third act, she is basically a dead person walking. She can't get her treatments, and by the end of the day, she would have passed away. So it makes it a little bit more emotional because it gets to me sometimes. It got to me a little bit. And that's because she knew that this was her final day. And she thought that there was no better place to spend it in than in the pizza place that she spent time with her dad. And that got to me. You don't even need to have some type of nice father-daughter bonding moment to really get emotions out of people, because everyone thinks of their dad fondly, right? Most people anyways. And this Eric guy, he finds out, right? He finds out. So when you go to the pizza place, it unfortunately is destroyed. So they go to this little bar place where he goes out and he gets pizza, right? But but it's not from the place because the place is destroyed, like I said. So he does a nice thing where he writes the name of the place on the basic pizza box, right? He writes it, and then they eat it together. And not only that, they also share a nice scene where he does a magic show. He finds a deck of cards and he does magic for her and pretends that there's an audience. And that's what I always like in the apocalyptic movies, is where the main characters finally have a chance to breathe and do stuff that many people really would take for granted. Eating a pizza, people don't think much of it. You know, you just pick up the phone, order it, $7 probably, depending on the place. You got it. But in the apocalypse, a slice of pizza is probably what most people are, craving, right? A hot dog, something basic, even cheese sticks, right? And in the magic show, they're having fun, no more worrying about the monsters, at least for the time being, the world's problems goes away. And I like that. They do that scene amazingly. Yeah, that scene is amazing. It gets me a little sad, right? Because once you find out that she was gonna die, it makes a lot more sense why. It makes more sense why she let the kids go into the mob, and why she was assumingly really rude to the nurses and other people, and that's because she was gone anyways. Even if she made it onto the boat, she would have just died anyways. So she might as well just spend it in the place that she remembers fondly, which is very sad. But the reason why I gave it a 7.5, even though with the amazing scenes of the bar, basically where it all happens, is because it's at the end of the movie, and I still get some weird feelings from the first quarter or first half. So although with an amazing scene, amazing ending, I just don't think it was enough to really repair what I felt in the first three quarters, right? But I did say bittersweet ending, which I actually forgot. So what do you mean by bittersweet? Of course, she does end up dying. But another nice scene is that she just listens to music. Her final minutes on this earth, she listens to music. I like that. It's very nice. Like I said, the last quarter, amazing. But the first three, it just needed a lot of catching up to do. But besides that, we got a next film we'll be talking about, and that is... Now, of course, the next movie is Here, which is a movie I really was looking forward to, as the premise seems nice. So, of course, before we go into the premise, the critics have it 40% on Metacritic, 6.2 out of 10 by IMDb, and 75% of Google users like the movie. Now, of course, Rotten Tomatoes is kind of the outlier, 35% by critics and 59% by people. Now, of course, obviously, it seems that most people did not like the movie, or at least thought it was all right. So the essential premise is it's a camera focused on just one part. Doesn't move throughout the movie. It's just one part, and it goes throughout history and basically the history of that certain plot of land. But the main focus is towards Tom Hanks and his family. His dad, mom, early life. Before they had him, his life, his family, and all that stuff, and overall struggles that mostly everyday people encounter. Now, of course, how would I rate it? I would rate it a 7. I like the movie. It seemed charming for the most part, but there are quite a bit of bad things and just stuff that just did not make sense. Now, of course, here the main problem is just the pacing. All right, so the thing is, it shows obviously the scene, right? But it goes from family to family with really no transition, right? It feels just abrupt, right? It doesn't let scenes play out for the most part, which unfortunately doesn't make sense. But we'll talk about the families now. Now, of course, the first family is, of course, Tom Hanks' dad and mom. When they buy the house after his father fought. I assume it's World War I, right? And he fought, so he got the house. Now, of course, the main thing is that he couldn't afford it, right? Even with some things, but they ended up getting it because his wife was pregnant. So obviously, it kind of makes him resent not his kids. It seems like he does care about the kids. But obviously, he does say later on in the movie, after Tom Hanks gets his girlfriend pregnant, obviously, basically mirroring his dad, basically saying, you think I didn't have aspirations as well, ambitions as well, and it had to get put, and I would have put them away because, my wife was pregnant with you, right? So it goes with that. Obviously, Tom Hanks' family, he has a daughter, right? But it also goes with the family back in the day, back when planes were not seen as very much useful things, right? And he has a wife and a kid. Obviously, the wife does not care or no, does not want him flying the plane, and saying he's gonna die in that contraption. He does end up passing, but we'll talk about that later. It's a little weird. And it also goes with the Modern Family, 2020. Same thing: wife, husband, kid, and a nanny, right? Which is somewhat important, right? The next one is some dude who makes the lazy boy, or he calls it the lazy boy, but it's the recliner chair, and his story. And that's about it. There's also one about the Revolutionary War with Benjamin Franklin's like grandson or whatever, but and Native American. Those two arguably are the weakest ones. They make no sense, to be honest. They probably should not have been in the movie, but I get it. The whole point is to show that everyone throughout history has gone through similar things, right? Starting a family, death, obviously. It's sweet. The soundtrack is nice, but the way that I guess you could say cinematography, obviously the camera doesn't move, right? But it doesn't let scenes play out so for you to feel truly sad, right? It changes scenes way too quickly. It seems like there's no real direction in it. I liked it. It's a sweet movie, but it has too many stories. It should have focused on a couple, right? I wouldn't have minded if it was just Tom Hanks and his father's thing, because how they kind of are similar to each other, Both of them ended up getting someone pregnant, at a young age, therefore having to put their essential hobbies to the side to take care of a family. Obviously, the difference is Tom Hanks's character does not go as toxic as dad. As a dad always seems so grumpy, right? Until his wife ends up having a stroke, and then he changes his tune, right? Obviously, because the person basically that put up with him almost died. So obviously he's like, okay, now I think it might be time for me to stop doing certain things, right? But the one that doesn't make sense is the pilot one. The pilot is just there. He ends up dying, right? I did say I was going to come back to this. He ends up passing away. But they're all like, hey, I didn't think they're going to have an open casket funeral for him, because of the plane crash. And then the dudes are like, plane crash? What do you mean plane crash? And then he looks at him, right? He says he died of the influenza virus while wearing a mask. Obviously, it mirrors to what happens in the 2020s family, where the nanny passes away from COVID. Obviously showing that people have gone through similar things throughout history, so we're not so different. The difference is, it doesn't make you care about all these characters at all to really feel anything. And even the jokes that they make just don't land. They try to do too much, is what I'm trying to say. An hour and 44 minutes. They could have made it 2 hours, right? No one minds an extra 10, 20 minutes to a movie if they use it wisely, A lot of these characters just don't get the time to really grow on you, besides Tom Hanks' family. I get it. He's the main guy, on the poster and everything. But why even have these families if you're just not going to give them the time and respect that they deserve to, be meaningful to the story, And not to mention, the one that I like that's like not the main family is the one who makes the lazy boy, right? Because they're all so bubbly and happy and, it cheers you up, right? It feels nice. They're fun. So obviously I don't mind them. But the other ones, the Native Americans, the Benjamin Franklin one, the pilot, the 2020 family, they just don't get enough time. I just don't get it. I watched the trailer. I thought it was just going to be about Tom Hanks' family. Don't get me wrong. They could have used the other families, but the time that they had of an hour and 44 minutes, I just think it overall just brought the movie down. They could have put more time into Tom Hanks' family. They could have just not used one of the families, which probably should have been Benjamin Franklin one, to be honest. I think they could have just scrapped that entire thing and added more time into the Tom Hanks family, right? Now, I'm not saying it's not bad. I'm not saying that's all bad, right? Because even the small time that they do have with the family, it's good, right? But yeah, besides that, I feel like they could have added more time to the individual families. I feel like it would have been better to just focus on Tom Hanks' family and his dad and their story. I feel like that would have been better. I mean, that's what I saw in the trailer, so that's what I expected. It's still a good movie that feels like it could have been better if they used their time more wisely. One puts it a little bit like what I'm thinking right now. Of course, he rated it 1 out of 4, I think. It's this guy on, Rotten Tomatoes. Here is a soulless, meandering, or meandering, I don't know how to say it, bore, proving that nostalgia and tech tricks can't save a story with nowhere to go. You know, it feels like that. And especially this guy, Shay. And these guys have very similar things to what I say. Rated a 4 out of 5. I love Tom Hanks. I found the movie to be a little difficult to follow at times. It was too much jumping back and forth. That's exactly what I'm saying. You know, they had too many stories that really ruined the entire movie. You know, I don't want to say ruined it, but although I didn't rate it that low, I would get why some people would rate it this low. Even maybe not 35%, but somewhere around there. Even this one, was it Annie? I loved it, but my husband had difficulty following it. Yeah, there's too many stories. Don't get me wrong, there's some humorous bits from the stories that don't have that much going for them, but that's about it. You know, they should have focused. They probably should have focused on just the family, but whatever, right? But besides that, that's the end of this review. I liked it, but it had too much in it. You know, it really kind of brought the whole thing down. But besides that, the next movie and the final one of the four I'm talking about, and the last movie is Trap. Of course, an M. Night Shyamalan movie, which, let's just say, has some very interesting reviews. We'll talk about that, the reason why I chose it, and what I think about the movie. Now, of course, 52% on Metacritic, 5.9 out of 10 by IMDb, 69% of Google users like the movie. Now, Rotten Tomatoes, not that far off from the other ones, 57% by critics and 65% by the audience. Now, what I think of it, oh my dude, I think it's such a weird movie, but not in a good way. You know, the only reason why I watched the movie was because I supposedly heard from someone that it was a good movie. I'm starting to think it was just the voices in my head, because this was not a good movie at all. It's bad. Like, it's bad, right? But it's somewhat bad. It's good. Like, it's humorous. I watched it with someone, and of course, we're talking about it. He said it felt like a parody movie, like a satire movie on the whole escape thing. I don't know, because literally the whole point of the movie is that this dude, the main character, is the butcher, right? A serial killer, crazy lunatic on the loose, and they found out that he was gonna be at this lady's concert. So then they surround the entire place to essentially making it, well, a trap, like what the movie says. But oh my god, dude, this is so weird. So if there's any way to explain this movie, it's basically plot armor the movie. Like, literally, he manages to find literally the perfect opportunity all the time, and not only that, people are just oblivious to the thing. Because I need to remind you guys that the entire faculty employees were given the rundown on how, you know, to run the operation and make sure no one, especially the butcher, would, you know, not escape the place, right? Guess what happens? He manages to find the only guy, this guy, he's funny, by the way, but the only guy that would just give him everything he needed to know. He told him that there's a trap for the butcher. He told him that there's a secret code for the butcher. He not only that, he brought him to the back because he promised him a shirt, because he gave a good life lesson to his daughter, right? So he brought him to the back, even though he's been told that this very, very dangerous man is gonna do something. Now, don't get me wrong. There's thousands of people at this concert, so you wouldn't expect that one guy, the nice guy, the firefighter, to be the one that's the butcher, right? That wouldn't make sense, right? Nope. He goes to the back, which is whatever. You want to bring a firefighter to the back, that's whatever, right? He's a nice dude. But not only that, he gives them the straight up code word to use so that the police officers and FBI and stuff know, oh, this guy is an employee, he's safe. And not only that, he got pickpocket of his little card. You know, the card that he uses to access the back? Yeah, he got caught with that. The fact that literally he didn't even know that it was gone, I assume he had to go to the back again. You would think he would tell them, oh, this one guy, this guy right here, I'm pointing at him right now, he's the butcher, he stole my card. Nope. And not only that, the FBI, the little director, don't even know who the hell they're going for. Don't get me wrong, they found a snippet of a receipt for the tickets, obviously showing that he is going to be there. But there are thousands of people there, and you have no idea how the hell this guy looks like. They say he's white. They say he's black. They say he's, I think, Asian at some point. He's tall. He's short. He has a tattoo. He doesn't have tattoos. That's basically everyone. He may as well just arrest everyone. And not only that, he causes a scene in the movie where he causes an oil explosion, so he gets some scope of the outside, right? Taking some dude's apron. Where the police find them, tell him, hey, what's the code word? He says the code word, obviously, because this idiot would give him the code word. I would get why you would bring him to the back, right? But why the hell would you give him the code word? Like, literally, who the hell's even asking for that, too? That's such a weird question to ask. Hey, man, you know what the code word is? You mind if I get your social security number, too? He's like, oh, man, you're such a nice guy. You can have my credit card information. What? And not only that, they asked him for another card, right? Which is a card they were given at orientation, another little layer of protection, so that no one, even if they were to know the code word, they wouldn't have the card. The apron that he supposedly took managed to have a wallet with the card. What? That's dumb as hell. And not only that, he managed to find the uncle of the concert singer, right? And he told him a sob story about his daughter with leukemia, right? So they let her on stage, basically bypassing security for the most part. What? Okay, enough complaining about the movie. There is some good scenes. I like the comedy. Like later on in the movie where it starts ramping up in terms of thrillerness and horror. It's not that scary. It's more thriller, right? More suspense. They ramp it up in the later half. But once again, it's just plot armor the movie. Dude manages to somehow change clothing, set up a little dummy within like a minute. And no one saw him do that. I'm just saying, what? And not only that, right? The live stream that the Lady Raven has, it's pretty funny because she's basically telling him, because the main character, Cooper, the butcher obviously, has someone held hostage, basically said, you're gonna not do anything, right? So he manages to take his phone, basically his only real method of, his only real edge in terms of negotiations is gone. So he gets really angry and starts, tweaking, as some people would say. And she starts asking people, oh, do you know where this person, or where these landmarks are? Because the guy managed to see some landmarks, right? And then someone's like, I'm gonna tell my brother in Jersey or something. Like, but they're not in Jersey. It's like, I'm gonna tell my uncle. Oh man, it's so funny because there's this one comment, and it's in the Spanish guy. No, I don't understand. No entiendo or something. It's dumb as hell. Because why would he even write that? Why the hell would he write that? Or her, I don't know, right? But yeah, it's funny for the most part. I think it would have been better as literal satire, I guess you could say, because dude just gets away with just nonsense. Because after finding him, he manages to escape the FBI not once, not twice, but 3 times. So obviously things go out of whack. He's in the house. There, he's surrounded. He manages to escape and somehow replace the Raven's driver, pretending to be an FBI agent, which, first of all, what? Because that the driver is the only guy that isn't in on it. It's not him, but you would replace him. And he just like, okay, you can take it for a spin. Like, no, get out of there. What are you doing? And not only that, what do you call it? That's the first time he escapes. He escapes again because Raven manages to escape the limousine, and he's stuck there, right? He has the whole FBI outfit. Obviously, they would know it's him. It's pretty much sticking out like a sore thumb. He manages to change clothing, take out the vest, take out everything, put on the hoodie, get out, somehow be in the audience without looking suspicious, and he escaped again. Another thing is that the wife, obviously, very much distraught over the fact that her husband is an evil psychopath, stays in the house, which is surrounded by, agents. Guess what happens? He sneaks inside again. Who the hell are these agents? Goddamn, Stevie Wonder or something? Goddamn, dude, these people can't see for anything. It's like they're like, hey man, look, watch out for this guy, and they're like looking at flowers or something. Like, ooh, look at this. Like, no, these guys are idiots. And not only that, the end of the movie is that he escapes again because after they actually capture him, because I think he got poisoned or something, right? But he's basically breaking down mentally, so they capture him. And obviously, because he has OCD, which is they explain in the movie, he basically says, "Oh, you need a quick second. I need to go put this bike in place." Nothing suspicious about that. Nothing at all. Yeah, this dude's an evil psychopath, but he must put the bike in place. It has to happen. It's FBI protocol. It's like, no, you start dragging him back to the car. Not only that, they put him in the back with no other agents. This man has basically escaped your grasp like 3 different times, and you don't think to put some dude with them? And not only that, they also made him put back his shirt. That's right, he was shirtless when they caught him. They made him put on his shirt again. And guess what? He slips inside some ginormous metal rod that he somehow took out of a bike. A giant metal rod that he somehow took out of a bike and slipped it inside his long sleeve shirt. None of this would have happened if you would have kept him shirtless. He's a psychopath. I highly doubt it's breaking any protocols. But no, he has to escape one more time. It's dumb as hell. It's funny at times because of how many times he just magically finds a way out of a situation. It's funny like that. It's a little bit. The second half is a lot more, horror-like, I guess, thriller-like, as you could say. But it's not enough. It's so weird. Not only that, it also feels very long. It's an hour and 45. It does not feel like that. It feels like 2 hours, right? And yeah, I would give it a 6, 5.5 out of 10. 5.5 out of 10. It's funny at times, but for the most part, it's just you thinking, how the hell did he just do that? He's lucky as hell. This whole thing would not have happened if the damn shirt vendor wouldn't have given him the damn code. Why would he give him the code? We will never know. He just gave him the code. And it's like, wow, that's weird. But yeah, it's basically just plot armor the movie. Like, okay. But yeah, that's about it. These are the 4 movies I didn't watch. The next video will, of course, be the 2024 recap, where 2 more movies I need to watch. That's September or something. I forgot the name. And The Fire Inside. So, yeah. But anyways, hope you enjoyed these 4 movie reviews, and catch you in the next one.